Hello, Nick Green here. Today we're going to talk about decision making. Now, why do I want to talk about decision making? Now, my previous episodes, YouTube videos, I've been talking the meat and potatoes about when we get into looking at performance, analyzing what we're doing. That already comes after the fact that we've made a decision to go ahead and exercise and work out. But I just want to pause a little bit with this episode to really talk about the importance of decision making, offer some examples of why or how decision making may creep into our day-to-day fitness lives. Probably more so than we think about it. I was surprised when I started outlining this episode of how many decisions there are in fact part of our routines. And then also I just want to close with just kind of a couple take-home points, and then just give you an example of my typical morning routine and how how decisions occur just in a 1 hour window. So to kick it off here, I think it's best to conceptually understand that. So, I'm a behavior analyst. Everything that we do is behavior. And for the most part, 95% of the time, we're going to be focused on what those things are that we can observe, those things that we can measure, right? So anything I've looked at as far as like step counts and everything, those are overt behaviors, those things that we can see with our own eyes, whether it's measured with some type of Fitbit or Apple Watch, or if we just, watched a video of somebody or saw somebody in person, you can observe that behavior, right? So, again, this is a video. If you're listening to the audio, check it out on the YouTube. But again, behavior can kind of, just writing notes here on the iPad, behavior is really broken up into kind of one general bucket. It's everything that we do, right? So not surprising, we're behaving, we're doing things, but now everything that we do is broken up into things that we can observe and then things that we cannot observe. Well, that doesn't make too much sense now, does it? Well, let's just look at this here. So we are doing things kind of observable, or we're doing things that we are engaging in that we can observe. And this isn't a groundbreaking idea, but this is the thinking, right? This is the decision making. This is the deciding. We know there's something happening inside of our heads. We can't observe it, but we can kind of, how to best describe it, we can observe kind of the products of what your decisions are. So observe or can observe, right? This is the thinking behavior, and that is behavior too. And that's really what we're going to be focused on when it comes to that decision-making piece. So at the end of the day, when we're looking at exercising, engaging in more fitness, improving our fitness, what it comes down to is like, did we, at some point in our lives, make the decision to go ahead and work out? Make that decision to work out every day, every week, every month, right? Are we gonna decide to work out for the rest of our life? And so for me personally, again, just to share a little bit of a story here, is that when I started my master's program down in Florida Tech back in 2013, fall of 2013, so I'd been on and off. I worked out for many years. Following college, I just kind of did my own thing. I gravitated towards things that I had the skills and knowledge to do, which was just some light weights, just some running, right? I ran cross country in high school, but fortunately, my wife, or my girlfriend, fiance at the time, now my wife, she recommended I try CrossFit. And again, I've talked about this before. I love CrossFit. It's an adaptable methodology that can really benefit anybody at any point in anybody's fitness journey. That's a discussion for another day, but I kind of got introduced to it, had a great experience, learned a lot of skills, and the rest is history. So, but for me, before I think it was probably about sometime within that first month of working out, I decided, as I was 29, 30 at the time, I'm like, I've kind of been off and on again. This CrossFit thing seems pretty good, whether it's CrossFit or working with a personal trainer or somebody else. I decided, this is a decision that I need to make that just has to last for the rest of my life. And that's just a decision then that, it was kind of a combination of many variables all coming together. Again, being 30, out of state, learning a new learning a new fitness modality or fitness method, which was CrossFit. Seeing the value there of increased strength training, having a good experience, all those things, I thought, okay, this I think this is it for me. So, but this is that kind of side story is a good example as it relates to self-management. Many people look at, okay, we got these planners, we have these decisions we make. So, again, if we just quantify the number of decisions that I made, that decision for the rest of my life, that was just like one decision, right? Sometimes if we get into the weeds of self-management, we have to make these decisions of, am I going to work out every day? You have to make that every single day. So it's just, again, if we look at our brain as a finite resource that we can, hypothetically, let's just say we can only make 100 decisions a day. And if we're wasting that on a decision to work out every day when we could have made that in a different way, then, we can think and use our brains better for something else. But most importantly, again, the decisions that we're talking about are, right, we've got the short term and the long term all kind of factored in there. So decision making, it's behavior, and really it comes down to, are we making decisions, in the short term, long term, or, and are we making these decisions? Is this a daily thing or a once in a lifetime decision? And with my examples, you'll see there's going to be a combination of daily variables or daily decisions or once in a lifetime. So, as decisions can't speak, doing this in one take, right? As decisions relate to previous episodes and content that I've talked about, we think about our decisions and like, why do we work out? What are those reasons that we might engage in more fitness activities? And obviously the basic ones are, we like it for the health benefits, right? Those I'm making a decision now for the short term and the long term, so we can have health and fitness throughout the rest of our lives, right? We also have. You could be doing it for aesthetic reasons. It feels good, right? Those are those functions of behavior that help us escape some type of stressful situation, right? So we start with our reasons, but at the same time, right, we have our decisions are influenced, right? We have our reasons or functions of behavior. Again, just making notes here. But then we have, what are they influenced by? And this is it's a whole host of variables. So there could be what is going to influence us to work out more, to make a decision related to working out and engaging in more fitness behavior. We have doctor visits. Go to the doctor. Hey, you need to fix your blood sugar. How do we do that? Exercise more, eat fewer sugary foods, right? Doctor visits. We have our peer groups. What are our friends doing? Oh, you look like you're doing this activity over here. You're doing all these Tough Mudders. You're doing these Ironmans. Let me try that out, right? Our peer groups, our social groups, our work groups, right? Social and work circles, right? I've spent a lot of time in grad school, so research influences my decisions, right? So I know the research on reducing sitting and increasing just general physical activity throughout our lives has increased benefits for a host of health reasons. That's going to affect my decisions on the day-to-day of how I spend my, how actually I spend my how I spend my days, right? So if you're watching the video, you see I'm standing I'm recording this podcast while standing at my standing desk. It allows freedom of movement, reduces that sitting time. So research affects what I'm doing literally in the moment, right? We have our personal interests or history. You might see, I like this fitness program. I see somebody on Instagram. They have this physique, and what program are they into? Okay, these models over here are doing this type of sport. I kind of like that. Okay, let me see what's going on here. And those variables, engaging with that content is going to affect our decisions. Then we have significant life events, right? We may have lost a loved one to coronary heart disease, right? So maybe the doctor said, this individual didn't work out as much as they should have to build a healthy heart, right? I know there's individual cases, but just a general idea, we might have, again, friends and family members that die of cancer because they smoke too much. That's going to affect, right, our decisions on whether to smoke or not. And then, maybe something else like, our vocation or day job is going to affect our, what type and how much we're going to engage in some type of fitness. So, let's say construction workers, lumberjacks, when lumberjacks are actually swinging axes, they didn't really need to work out. They spent all day working out 8 hours a day. So, I'm in a sedentary office environment now. Now that is really going to affect just the value of that workout time that I give myself, 4 to 5 hours every week. That's like, okay, I know most of my day is going to be in an inactive state. So I need to make the most of the time that I have set aside. Why? Because I made that decision ahead of time. It's important to me. It's valuable. So on and so forth. So we look at the reasons why we work out and how those reasons then are influenced by all these variables like I just discussed. Doctor visits, peer groups, social groups, research, personal interests, life events, your vocation, all of these separate, all these different variables here. And each one of those, again, has its own unique learning history, right? Just for example, let's say you have a fantastic doctor and they give you wonderful advice, and everything they say and do like maps onto what actually happens, in your own personal life. Whereas if you had a doctor that you had a bad experience with, a horrible bedside manner, let's say they give you bad advice that just doesn't make sense for you, you may be less likely to follow doctor's orders, government advice, so on and so forth. So it all depends on all these variables kind of coming together. But that's another podcast for another day. So now we kind of look at those different types, right, of decisions that we make for the reasons why. They're all behavior, all this product of what we're thinking about as it comes to engaging in fitness. But now let's go ahead and jump into what are those decisions, what types of decisions are we making on a day-to-day. So we can also look at here what it is actually, what we can measure. Again, going back to the iPad, making that list here so it's easy to follow along. So for me, the format, my fitness, again, happens in a CrossFit setting. Everything is in a 60-minute class period. And I just want to make a quick little point here is that I'm going to be speaking about decisions as they relate from the athlete's perspective. Now, there are just as many decisions, probably, if not more, for coaches. So anytime I describe the following decisions and the types of decisions from an athlete's perspective, a coach may have, similar decisions that they may have to make. So, example, I need to decide if I'm going to follow this rep scheme, with a back squat or something, but a coach may need then to decide, am I going to give this individual feedback after every single rep, after every single set, after every single day? So you can see how it quickly adds up. So there's a lot of decision making that it's a back and forth. There's a relationship there between, that feedback loop if I'm engaging in behavior and what's going to influence, my next future performance and behavior. But again, getting back to the athlete, there are really in a 60-minute CrossFit class, any 60-minute HIIT class, any 60-minute group fitness class, this is the format that we have set up. You're going to have a warm-up. You're going to have strength and conditioning. You're going to have a workout or a WOD, and then you're going to have a cool down or an accessory. Now, even before you get to that warm-up, what do you got to do? What kind of behavior, what kind of decision do you have to make before you get into that warm-up? It's just to show up, so you have attendance that happens before, right? So there's just one decision right there. Did you wake up on time? Did your car start? All those things. So you get a 1 right there. You get a plus. Starting off the day with a big win. Okay, so you got the attendance, right? Now, what decisions go into the warm-up? Well, warm-up, this basic format, right? You're either going to do, I say format, but just when you're warming up, one, you're going to say, are you going to do it? Yes or no. But also, within the warm-up, you're going to have different reps and movements, right? Different movements or reps. So let me go ahead. If I go ahead and pull up my workout on Wodify, and I'll see what the typical warm-up, it's all pretty much the same, where you're doing, we'll do like a bike warm-up, and then we'll do some type of like deadlift hamstring warm-up. Let's just look at the warm-up yesterday. Was 2 rounds, inchworms, where you bend over, you walk out, do a push-up, then you do groiner, T-spine. So you have 3 different movements there. Actually 4 if you count the calorie bike row. So you have 4 of those. Deadlift, you say squats. So you're deciding, am I going to do those movements? Am I going to do the rep scheme of each of those where you're doing 5, 6, and then are you going to do the rounds? So there's a lot of decisions here that go into it, right? And also another variable, did your class start on time? Are people behind? Is there enough equipment available? All these things. So you're going to have, 4 to 5 different decisions just to make in that 5-minute warm-up. So a lot of things happening very fast there. And you got to stay on pace. You got to have a certain rate. I end up probably lagging behind in class because I like to take a little extra time on the warm-up. I'm not just rush through the movements, but again, I'll count up all the different decisions at the end just to see. I'm curious how many fitness-related decisions am I making in a 60-minute class. So that's just the warm-up. Now, when you get into the strength and conditioning piece, again, the format, you probably spend about 5 to 10 minutes warming up. Strength and conditioning is, depending on the movement and the cycle that we're on, that's probably going to take about 10 to 15 minutes. The WOD could be about 20 minutes. Cool down accessory work, if you have time, it's going to be another 5 to 10 minutes, and boom, that's an hour. Sorry, I had to take a deep breath there. I was getting out of breath. Strength and conditioning here. So now, let's just look at, okay, what did we do for the movement last week? Again, I'm looking at the classes and my schedule here. Let's go back. I know Friday was a weird one. We did a power clean and jerk wave, so that was very complicated. Let's go back to Wednesday's class, and we did. Okay, easy. All right, we did a bench press at 5x6. Strength and conditioning for the example. We did a bench press 5x6. 55 to 73%. All right. So we get into the strength and conditioning now. We look at what kind of decisions here. We look at the movement itself, the weight, the rest period, and are we collecting data? So for the movement, we think about, okay, can we perform the skill? Yes or no. Sometimes you have a shoulder injury and you can't perform a standard bench press on a flat bench press. So there's a decision. Again, this is all happening in real time. So you might know, obviously ahead of time if you're injured, but one, can you perform the skill? Are you injured or sore? Okay, if we can't do the movement, right, this is our decision tree. What are we going to do instead? Is there an option available that we can do that, right? So many decisions right there. We look at the weight, okay, the rep scheme. And the weight here, the weight was 55 to 73% of our 1 rep max. Have we done a 1 rep max recently? Do you know that number? Is it easily accessible, right? All those decisions right there. See, I just thought of them right away. Do we have information to help us make a better decision right now in the here and now? And on the reps, are we going to be following this 5x6 rep scheme? Has it been, let's say, a year since you've benched? Okay, is it probably going to be a little too sore, or are you going to end up a little too sore? Do you need to work on your form? All these things, right? So we got to look at, are we going to scale the movement, right? If we can't do a bench press, are we going to do something else? Are we going to do push-ups instead? The program called for a 55 by 73% percentage at a 5x6 rep scheme. Is that too much, right? For me, I know with that one, I did a similar, let's say, I think I did like a 5x5 at 50 by 70 or 50 to 70%. I might be talking a little bit fast on the numbers here, but you can go ahead and rewind it. But, again, my learning history, my fitness history showed me that it's like, okay, that's going to be a manageable weight. That's a weight that I just handled in a different movement. Again, many different decisions happening very fast. And that's just a bench press. If you start getting into more complicated lifts like let's say a hang squat clean, right? So, or just a squat clean from the floor, right? You're gonna look at a lot of different movements, like how, are all my body parts, are they feeling pretty good? Are the movements, are the rep schemes, kind of keep up with those? And so you can kind of see just in that strength and conditioning piece, and with the warm up, we're probably already 10 to 20 decisions in, and I thought I was just working out, which we are working out, but there's a lot that goes into all these different steps. So that's the weight. And then, in addition to the rep scheme, now you have to begin following the class. You have to begin following what the timing is. So that's another piece. So is my pace of working out on par with what the class kind of cadence is? So for a 5x6 with this one, I remember you're going to do this every 2 minutes. So so a 2 minute or 10 minute EMOM every 10 minutes, whatever it is, right? So every 2 minutes, I'm going to be engaging in a movement. In between movements, I need to change weights. Do I go up to 60%? Do I stay at 55%? How am I feeling? A lot of decisions happening all at once. Then if you're working out with a partner, you got to make sure that you're keeping up with pace. You're making a decision to help out your friend, to change the weights. You're changing your own weights. Many different things happening. So just on the strength and conditioning piece alone, right? Am I going to follow that 2 minute break period, right? And that rest period that's all like experts have figured out the best rest period and everything for muscle gain and strength and all those things. So I'm a bit of a rule follower, so I always side on following the rest periods as best as possible, so I get a maximum performance on each of my lifts, and that kind of sometimes keeps me towards like finishing kind of all the strength movements last in the class, and so everybody kind of finishes ahead of me, and I kind of live with those consequences. But I want to stay, true to what the program is calling for. So I guess indirectly, I'm kind of calling out some of my fellow fitness friends that they kind of are not following the rest periods as tightly as they should be, given what the protocols call for. So, but that's just me. So those are the first two pieces: warm up and strength and conditioning. Now we jump into the WOD. So the WOD now, the workout, that's typically going to have 2 to 3 movements, and then you're going to have the same set of variables that you have to make decisions on. So I'm just looking at what our WOD was last Friday. I think it was fairly simple. Okay, here we go. So the WOD was I need to go in a different space here. So we had a 33. Here's the rep scheme: 33, 27, 21, 15, 9 back squat. And then we had a 15, 12, 9, 6, 3 bar muscle up. Okay, so what the goal of the workout was for time, you do 33 back squats, 15 bar muscle ups, 27 squats, 12 bar muscle up, 21 squat, 9 bar muscle up, 15 back squat, 6 bar muscle up, 9 back squat, 3 bar muscle up. So now, this was at 135. And I knew going into that workout, that rep scheme, and the goal was, also we had a cap of 18 minutes. So I know a couple things here that affected my decision and how I scaled this workout. But that was the workout there. So there's a lot of things to look at as far as, can I perform the movement in the back squat? I could do that, check. Bar muscle up, I can do that, check. Now, can I complete it as prescribed? That many reps at a back squat at 135 was a lot for me. So I decided to go ahead and do it at I'll cross off that 135, and I did it at 115. But again, that's 33, 27, that's 60, 60 and 21, 81, 81 and 9, 90. So that's 105. That's 105 back squats and an 18-minute cap. I was like, can you do that? That's different ways to figure out how you can go ahead and complete workouts. And then you had bar muscle ups. You had 15 and 12. You had 27 plus 9, 36 plus 6, 42, So you had 45 bar muscle ups. Could I do that in 18 minutes? That was a lot, right? So I decided not to do that. But I'll go back to this workout as an example. But again, at the end here to count up decisions. 105 back squats, 45 bar muscle ups. Again, can we do the movements? I could do a bar muscle up. A bar muscle up, for those that are less familiar, you hang from a pull-up bar, and then it's a gymnastics movement, and you swing with momentum, and you end up on top of the bar where you're doing a dip. So you look at, okay, can I do those movements? Sometimes, there have been some months and years where I had kind of a shoulder tweak, and I couldn't do a bar muscle up, or maybe I just did a bunch of bar muscle ups the day before, so maybe I could substitute it with a chest bar or something like that. So we look at the weights, we look at the scaling. Okay, now then at the end of the WOD, am I going to collect the data in WODify? So a lot of different decisions there. Then at the end, you have the cool down, and there, not as many decisions there. There's going to be some accessory work. We did on Saturday. We did a bit of a gun show finisher where we did 21s. We did on the curl with the barbells. He did 7, quarter curls, and he did at the top of the range of motion 7 of those, and he did 7 full range. Then we did some kickbacks. So, deciding, are we gonna, do the accessory? We're gonna do it as prescribed. What's the weight? So on and so forth. So you can kind of see just through these 3 to 4 different sections that we're gonna have at least 10 to 12 decisions per area. So those are just the different examples of the different decisions in those kind of 4 buckets of warm up, the strength and conditioning, the WOD, the cool down, and the accessory. So when we get into the take home message here is that we kind of have three different buckets here. All the analysis that I've been focused on, in the past and in the future, there's every level here. Every level of analysis looks at all these different decisions. So there's so many decisions, right? So you look at, let's say, whatever the magic number is that we come up with of, let's say there's 30 decisions in a 60-minute workout, time frame. There is some, a high level of analysis that can go into just figuring out how to improve bar muscle ups, for example, right? So I'm just kind of giving a broad overview of okay, how do we best map on where we start beginning our analysis to help us make better fitness decisions. So every level looks at these decisions. Point number 2, each decision is going to be each decision is influenced by its own set of variables. Some of these may overlap, but again, getting back to the doctor visit would influence us to make decisions. Let's say we have skills to do a handstand push-up or not. Each decision is going to be affected by its own set of variables. If somebody's learning to do a ring muscle up for the first time, that's going to look entirely different than somebody learning to maybe pull a heavy deadlift, and the reasons may vary, right? We could be preparing for a competition for the ring muscle up, or for a deadlift it could be something that's just necessary for just general strength and conditioning. So each decision is going to be influenced by its own set of variables. And then at the end of the day, really this comes down to us. We're the consumer of our own decisions, right? It's kind of funny to think about, but we need to look at our own satisfaction. A little bit of Rolling Stones there, right? I can't get no satisfaction if my decision making on fitness ain't right. Right? So we need to look at how satisfied we are of our own decisions. And that's what it is. We're going to have our performance. We're going to have our metrics. We're going to know if we're meeting our, hitting new PRs, learning new skills. But at the end of the day, we need to be satisfied and happy with all the decisions that we did make, and give ourselves a break. I just say that probably just as a blanket statement that we all are probably a little too hard on ourselves when we don't need to be. So we need to look at our own decisions. So again, the general take home, every level of analysis can look at any of these decisions. Each decision has its own set of variables, and then at the end of the day, we need to be happy with our decisions, and know as much as we may be pushing the envelope, we just need to be happy with how far we've gotten. So to end this episode, I'm going to go ahead and look at an example of the number of decisions example, we're going to count the decisions and see how many, as a conservative amount here, how many decisions that we may be making for one fitness day. So again, I'm looking at my computer here of just kind of the layout here. So we have the general attendance, right? We have decision 1, attendance. Are we going to work out? Right? I woke up this morning, 5 o'clock. Okay. Am I going to the gym? Yes. Now we go to the warm-up. So we'll just do one tally there. Warm-up. Are we going to do the warm-up and follow the class? 1. Are we going to do all the reps? It doesn't matter if it's yes or no. These are just decisions. So all the reps? Yes. All the movements? Yes. Okay. Are we going to finish on time? Yes. 3. The strength and conditioning piece. All right. I'm just going through my list here. Are we going to do the movements? Are we healthy enough to do the movements as prescribed? If not, do we need to replace it with anything? Okay. Are we going to follow the percentage of weights? If not, what are we going to do instead? Are we going to follow the rest periods? I'm just making tally marks on my iPad just a basic accrued count. Okay, if there's rest periods, are we following those rest periods? Okay. Now, I like to collect my lifting data on the iPad or in a notebook and then track it later. So are we collecting data? Yes or no? You could probably take that off if data is less important to you in the moment. Okay, now when we get into the WOD, all right, we need to decide, can we do all these movements? Are we going to do them RX? Are we going to do the rep scheme? Do we need to change it all, right? Am I going to collect data during the workout? Am I going to self-manage? So let's say we get 5 decisions there. And again, just going back to look at the decisions I made for that rep scheme on that workout of the back squat and bar muscle up. The decisions I made was I scaled the weight down from 135 to 115, and for the bar muscle up, I ended up doing, I said instead of doing 15, 12, 9, 6, 3, I did 9, 7, 5, 3, and 1. So I cut the reps significantly. So I did the same amount of reps on the back squat, but I did, 16, 21. I did 25. So I did 20 less bar muscle ups, right? So I did the WOD there. Okay, so what about 5 decisions with the WOD, and then with the cool down? Again, the cool down accessory, you're deciding. Let's say, did I do it or not? And then am I going to do it? Am I going to do everything? And sometimes the cool downs, at least for us, can get rather long. They kind of go beyond that 60 minutes. So here, just with a rough tally, I just did 5, 10, 15, 16. There's 18 decisions that I make on a daily basis, which is a lot more than I would thought it would be. Just like, you just go work out and follow instructions. Maybe that's 2 decisions. But again, even when you get into all the different sections, there's a lot more you have to do to keep yourself on pace and, happy with everything. So I think as a safe estimate, say a minimum 18 decisions, just for 60 minutes. So again, this is happening at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I don't want to be thinking that hard. So it's, I want to be fluently working on, not fluently, but I just want to get in there and work. And sometimes it's a little more taxing than I thought it would be at 6 o'clock in the morning. Anyway, so that was my typical, morning routine. Were my decisions correct when it gets down to it? So we looked at the goal for this cap here on this workout. Again, getting back to how satisfied I am. Again, I modified the back squat weight, and then I modified the rep scheme, and I finished this, and it was like about 17, 15, and so that was right around the cap here. So I'm happy with that. I think that was a good modification. Sometimes I think that's kind of the goal of the workout, to be about that much, to last that long. If you finished too early, maybe you have to adjust your scaling and your decisions, your movements. If you finished over, maybe you were there and that's just where you are at with your fitness. But you can kind of look at that, and overall, I was satisfied with those, with my decisions there. So, again, that workout yesterday or on Friday, it was good. I appreciated it. So, just to kind of wrap up here, just the main points again. Decision making, incredibly important to working out, fitness, maintenance of, our goals and gains and everything. That's probably one of the most important behaviors we can engage in, as far as making really good decisions to then translate into, how healthy and fit we are in the rest of our lives. That decision is a behavior that we engage in, right? We can't necessarily observe it, but we can kind of see the products of a well thought out fitness thought process. There's different reasons why we work out, right? We talked about those functions of behavior, health, aesthetics, avoiding health aches and pains. It's going to be influenced by a host of different sources, doctor visits, personal interests, what your day job looks like. When we look into the actual analysis of what's measured, we look at that attendance, the warm-up, strength and conditioning WOD, cool-down accessory. That's where my kind of 18 decisions kind of came from. And really, when you get into the reps and everything, when you could start breaking it down even more. But just for this episode, I kind of just looked at it just as a global estimate. And the take-home message, again, is we need to look at how all of our, how this analysis can be applied to every decision when it comes to, just waking up, getting out the door, moving more to, maybe you're in that elite athlete category and you want to look at something very specific, right? One small change could get you that extra place or two in any competition. And, all these variables affect decisions in unique ways. So we need to treat every situation as a unique opportunity. So that's it for today. I appreciate your time and attention. I see that my audience is growing, and I want to do you guys and gals, give you my respect your time and energy for spending the time with me. So please share comments, ideas, feedback, and any, you know how to reach. So reach the BehaviorFit channel. So thanks again. Keep moving. Make good fitness decisions. I'm here for you, and keep moving.